I was thinking there probably were going to be a few more people, so I'm going to also go around a few tasks that might be interesting. But mine is a little bit more less about theory and more about actually practical use of AI, and I want you to experience it as well and see how you vibe with it, basically. So I had a few quotes to discuss, but let's go past that for time. As you can see, the 68% coming up here as well. They actually, I've seen people with a checklist, so their first page of their exam is tick how much you used AI. And that's just, to me, that's just admitting it. It's not going into how or if it helped them at all. So to me, it's kind of a moot point. It's like, yes, I used it. Well, let's just assume most people do because they do. What actually have you told me other than what I already knew? So a lot of my activities is more about implementing it and reflecting on it and using that in our assessments as well. So yeah, I don't, the way I put it, we're not studying AI, we're just using it. Instead of being like, oh, the AI is here, we use it to facilitate what we're trying to do with the message and hopefully distract from this is AI and move to what am I learning. Hopefully it works. So this is the one where I didn't know how many people were going to be here. I've done 12 different activities. Feel free to work your way through it. If you go to the QR code, if it works, you should be able to on your phone. You'll see the different activities. They do often combine platforms. Have a look. I'd like you to do the activities if you can, but they are maybe not so useful if you're doing them individually. So feel free to move into groups or sit with others to try them. Is it working? This one, yeah. So you've got the list, yeah. Hopefully it works. Just go through, yeah. I mean, I didn't know how many people were going to be here. I was kind of going to be like, oh, maybe we do 4 or 5 of the activities. But looking at it, I'd really like you to have a look at the NotebookLM one because I have real student feedback on that and I've done it in my lessons and it's fascinating to see the range of responses. So I'd really like someone to have a look at that, and then you can just have a read through, have a look, and then yeah, have a bit of a play. I would like you to work together because it's a lot to do with discussion as well.
So
yeah, take your time to read through.
So I see the QR code. This makes it like
Nice
question. This is the idea of guiding. Told me what to do, but it's kind of guiding me to what to do.
So let's take the NotebookLM one to start.
So the QR code.
The QR codes and the links are the same thing. It was just whichever one works for you.
So I just have a really quick question. So if we have a QR code here, would that mean something on a different phone?
Can scan it and they'll have the same link as the one that you click. So if you clicked where it says NotebookLM Notebook, you click that link, you have the same access to the person who scanned the QR code that says NotebookLM. It's just a link to the same thing. One's a QR code, one's a clickable link. So it's just whatever works for you. So I have students who have like tablets that they prefer to use instead of computers, and so they prefer to use the QR code, etc. It's just an access. The NotebookLM one was one I did in my oral communication class. It was Khmer New Year, so hardly any students were turning up, so I decided to do an activity that was basically an online self-learning activity where they then posted in a discussion board to reflect on what they did. Yeah, I had a Wayground activity first where they see an interview with someone being like, oh, my whole family's been killed by some horrible murderer, and then they turn out to be the murderer and it's a lie for an interview. It was on topic for what we were doing.
Yeah, so I'm going back to the
No,
Okay, so
but I'm having trouble scrolling.
what does it say?
I'm having trouble scrolling on my phone.
If you have a computer with you,
It actually spits back citable references to support or like it says no,
But
it's
I
not
don't know
support.
what to do with it.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it's
yeah, I was going to say if you work together.
Work together.
So when I go into the chat, this is the teacher training I'm going through. So you had a set of prompts on the other page, but I don't have access to. So it's kind of student.
But this is where they use their multiple devices in front of us, so it's very easy to go. But it's also so basically you click on the NotebookLM link, you go through the studio things, you learn, you teach yourself, you see what you understand. And the instruction is you go to the audio that is called How Brain and interact with
Somehow I
it.
got to how to cognitive loads and stuff.
So you're on the chat, so you need to go to the studio.
And then
And again, students on a computer. And that's when you need to go to the interact ones.
Yeah, like a really bad
How Brain that one. And that's when you interact with it. And there is a set of questions you're meant to ask it, and you're going to record yourself doing it. As I said. So if you take the hand that's waving, that's interactive, so you can actually speak to it and ask it questions, which is the task, to ask it questions and reflect. Slow down.
Yeah, but the true secret to deception isn't about anxiety at all. It's actually driven by brain power.
Okay.
So they, like I said, the way that they did it, they were not in the lesson. So they had the instructions first, then they went into the notebook, they go through the materials, they test their learning, and then they go to the interactive one, they have 3 questions.
So they know it.
Some people probably don't get it because they don't get it.
They need to be in the interactive. So you listen, and then you stop it and ask it a question. There's a
why
set
are
of
people
4 questions.
anxious when they tell a lie?
Wonderful example.
I watched the movie called Deep, where these guys go on.
Ask it about it.
Okay, so overtell is based upon anatomy of moving, not necessarily horizontal views. Do you agree with that?
Why are people anxious?
When they tell a lie.
That was funny.
Why?
That's what you say.
It really is. Most of that anxiety comes from 3 things: fear, guilt, and shame.
Saying witnessing, that's something that's. That's funny.
NotebookLM loves this.
Those what?
Let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Every
yeah.
AO.
Yeah.
So, overtells,
Yeah, you can string
verbal, and that's not actually correct.
Does context change people's response?
Same problem. So, this is
Because you have to stop talking to it. Register the question.
Does it make a difference if the interviewer is present in person or if it is a recording or a phone call?
Maybe try one is working perfectly.
Not because they're dead.
That's the concern. I mean, like I said, this was done there, done doing
Does it make a difference if the interviewer is present in person or if it is a recording or
Let's
a
try
phone
one
call?
other activities. If you're struggling with the NotebookLM, maybe go to, be interesting for those in the EMI to look at DeepL, because that was one that I discovered on this one.
So any of these symbols is the same thing?
So they're all just different, like, they're just designing how to interact with them. So this is what the studio produced, and it's to help them learn first, so they can learn through the material and then they interact.
So which thing is the
Only because the way behind. But in my directions, I stated it was doing this. Again, if I had it so I could open it on the computer, I would have gone putting it on the computer, but it's a bit difficult.
Yeah, that's like totally cool. So,
And this is where
so is this, these are your,
this is what I've actually used.
Your importing materials.
So I'll wait for them to finish. Once they're finished, I'll talk through it. If you want to have a look here, if anyone's interested, this is the discussion board that has my students' honest answers and reactions to the activity. But yeah.
Yeah. So I do something very similar to this with my students in their own
Yeah,
I have them actually use their phone to videotape themselves.
Yeah,
Wow.
mine are recording it, and they've submitted the recording there as well, yeah. And so you go to the discussion board and you get the different reactions to it, and the students have to reflect. I'll read, this one's just quite a nice, easy one. He talks through an activity that is not in this bit, and then it goes ahead. After the second activity in NotebookLM, I put some thought into it, and actually the guy in the news video from the first activity doesn't seem fine at all. He actually seems like he's hiding something. For the second activity, NotebookLM, it was a very good experience. It was the first time using this kind of technique and audio activity. I did manage to ask several questions, including blah, 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 not just the set one. So he actually went further and basically implemented his own critical thinking into it. The answers that I was given from NotebookLM were very clear and thorough. They explained it perfectly and it was easy to understand. Now I think I can detect when people are lying, which makes me feel a lot more confident, which I quite like. Then you get the other side of it. And this is when this person has said, for the first question, the speakers mentioned that it was because of fear, blah, blah, blah. About the gender question, the speakers said all the sources didn't mention any difference. That surprised me, and I really want to know more about it. So again, at least it's putting that engagement and hopefully making them want to see more about it. Not just believing what they see, but actually going beyond that. And that's what I want from them using AI. If you can go back to the worksheet, I'd like to go through another one that I have in there. Just so, again, just have a look at it rather than do it.
Would I click on sources or?
So just go back onto that one. I put my phone down somewhere. I can't remember where it was. And I think if we go to, I do like magic still. If we go to the Claude and ChatGPT one, which is group 5. It's so frustrating, I can't show you on my computer the results of these.
Sorry, which one would you like to?
Number 5,
Number 5.
Claude and ChatGPT.
So should we open Claude?
Have a read through the task.
Okay.
You like our listeners to it?
Yeah.
It's very, very reminiscent to you.
Skip the direction.
Yeah. Alright, so we should do this. But read the steps. I mean, it's very realistic, and this is partly, and I think that this is AI's fault to a large extent. People are skipping to the end. They want to get to the production, they don't want to go through the steps.
Glad I could provide everything.
So this is breaking it down. I actually had a wonderful quote from one of the groups I'm in, I think it's LinkedIn or Facebook, and it's AI in Education. And so I had another teacher had posted like, I'm really sick of it. I'm getting these essays, they're just generated, regurgitated, it's just the same thing. The only thing that the students are actually outputting is whatever they've told AI to do.
And I really like that, rewrite the prompt, not the essay, to fix all those issues.
So this is where I went, well, why don't we mark what students are putting in? Instead of fighting against it, instead of complaining about it, why don't we teach them to use it in a way that we can then understand how they are understanding the essay? So instead, I've got it, and I use a Sway. I don't know if any of Microsoft Sway, my students love it. You use Sway to follow the steps. So they go into Claude, ChatGPT, whichever platform they like. They have the title that I told them to write about, write a paragraph. It generates a paragraph. They copy, they paste that into Sway so we can see the starting point. Then they take that paragraph and they analyze it. And I have very clear directions, identify a sentence that blah, 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 identify vocab that, and they have to really go through and see the weaknesses throughout the paragraph. They write it all down, and then they use that information, again, on a Sway, it's the next slide, you put down your annotations, then they create a prompt reflecting those weaknesses and telling it to improve those specific features. They have that prompt, they see what the next paragraph it produces is to fix those features. And this is how I do it. And they do that on repeat until they get one that they really like. There is an example Sway there. It was just a very, very quick one. But it does highlight how they have to engage, oh, what do I not like about this? How do I change it? And then the prompts actually do become information that we are learning from about what they can see as a weakness, what they have understood that they need in an essay, and things like that. So that is, again, instead of fighting against all this, well, AI is just doing that, lean into it and see it as a tool, and it's instead of it being like, okay, well, that's AI and that's separate from our learning, it's this aspect of them, it's just a way around it. So you want to see what students really think about what it's generated, look at their prompts. Because for them to improve it, they have to have looked at it, understood it, thought critically and said, I don't like this, that and the other, I want to change it, and created a prompt to reflect that. So you can still learn from what they're putting into AI, is my opinion. Using it to scaffold is a better way than fighting against it or just going, well, what did it generate, what was the end result? Just like you were saying about calculators, what did they do? They went, okay, well, you're going to use calculators, show you're working. And that is essentially what I'm getting them to do. And it's different ways of them showing their working and showing their understanding. Because you guys were talking so much about vocab, etc., the DeepL one was an interesting one. If you want to look at that one, I can still talk it through. DeepL is basically looking, and this is for multi-language speakers, basically.
Sorry, before you go to DeepL, you mentioned Sway. Is Sway
Sorry. See if I can.
You said Microsoft.
Microsoft Sway.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry,
Microsoft Sway, Microsoft Whiteboard. I think they're both really, really good features. And again, my students love it.
Sway, what does Sway do?
I'll show you. Sorry, I really did think it would connect to my computer, so I had a lot of stuff that is more practical.
Yeah. So do you get to see their prompts? Is that what you're...
So this is it. So that I show them through, and
does?
they have. There should be a link there which should actually connect to the Sway so you can see it. I don't, but I don't. Again, I don't know. I don't know why my
Well, that's, I mean, it's interesting. I'm doing similar, but I think I'm doing it in a very archaic way. Copy, paste, put it in a Word, let me see your prompts.
I mean, you can have it on like just a Google Doc where you can see it goes step 1 does this, step 2, and that again you can join that, you can share them now, which is easy.
It still works. I used to do that as a ChatGPT share.
In some ways, yeah. It sounds more streamlined.
So our institutional version of Gemini, stuff like that, doesn't allow us to share. That share feature is off for institutional.
Yeah. See that, and this is where they're talking about institutes and what is allowed and what isn't allowed, really.
That's kind of what like I said, I try to get teachers just to use what the institutions offer. So let's get on the same page instead of using.
which I'm
But that's part of Google, Microsoft. What's the name right now?
Sway?
Wait.
This way is Microsoft, yeah. Because I wasn't sure if you could get into the Microsoft Whiteboard, but Microsoft Whiteboard is also a really good way because it has so many different ways of displaying your information and you share it so everyone's involved and everyone can go on, so it's a really good one. Right, just thinking.
What's the Google one thing? Google used to have it as well.
I've got some Google there.
Padlet, and they're all the same idea.
Right, so this is what you have to create it. Sorry guys. So this is where you choose it. So this is the heading fixed. That was what I chose to do. And then you add, and this is where it's up to them what they want to do. So what do they want to do? Okay, so I'm adding text to the text box. And you get all these things. You can add pictures to make it pretty. And you go down. This is how I did it. So I was like, first put in your prompt. And then this is what it generated. Go to the analysis. And this is their analysis.
So wait a minute, how did it get from, so they put in the prompt, is there actually connected to an LLM or?
So this is, I've told them, this is the task bit. So I said, go to Claude, put in prompt.
Oh, and then they paste the prompt
And
in
they
here?
put the
I
paste
mean, they
into
paste the.
Claude, and then they copy it, and they also put it here as their directions. So they put it in, then they generate, and they copy and paste from Claude or whatever they're using, the paragraph that it's done. Then they analyze it. They then show here, so it says analysis, they show analysis. Now when you actually look at it, and this is when they're presenting it to each other and sitting and discussing, this is how it looks, so it's a lot easier for them to actually understand what they're being looked at. You can change different settings in the player. Right, if I go into a paragraph on how AI is ruining these, so right, there you go. That's what it generated. And then they get to analysis. And then they talk through what they had analysed.
So this is Sway's analysis of the generated.
Sway is just the platform they're using to put it into.
So
They would
this is
then
their
discuss.
analysis.
Oh, but
This is their doing analysis.
And their view.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just how they are sharing.
So
the
Sway
information.
didn't analyze the.
Sway didn't do anything, it's just how they show how their
Share, it's a
process.
shared
And
platform.
they share with you and you can review it.
And I mean, I have it as a discussion board thing, so they put the link in the discussion board and then put them in groups to start the next lesson, and they sit around in groups and they discuss having access to each other's space so they can see through everybody's process. And that was their analysis part. And then it goes, right, so how did you change your prompt? This was their new prompt. And this is what they put in. Next is the new paragraph. And then they can look at the new paragraph and discuss it. And this is where they're seeing the process.
You could say how successful was it?
Second analysis. Week
And they had
sentences.
to input these section headings.
Yes.
Yeah, so they said section analysis.
So yeah, so I have a set kind of like guide, but yeah, that is, it's just that this is how they are showing the information. And I like Sway, my students, I've got great feedback from my students, they really like it. Is it just makes it so simple to sit in a group and discuss and share. Oh, okay, so this is that bit, this is the next bit, this is the next bit. But I'm breaking it down, so, and to me, like I said, AI, it just happens to be done through AI. It doesn't actually change my technique in teaching. Usually I model something, I say analyze it, break it down, what is missing. This is normal teaching techniques. It's just that AI happens to be used in the creation of. It makes some aspects quicker, some aspects are still the same. And this is kind of where I'm trying to go with it. Instead of the students going, oh, AI is this, great for this, it's a cheat sheet for that. I want them to get back to exactly how we've been teaching anyway, exactly all the same methodologies. AI just is a bit quicker. And they're using it, it's so normal to them, they don't even notice that it's AI that they're using to get around and still use the same techniques that we're using in traditional old school teaching. Does that make sense?
And when you say techniques that you're using, what you're really saying is think critical.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, critical tasks, most tasks that I'm using, AI is just the tool that I'm using to get to the same thing, and I'm doing the same activities, it's just that AI is part of it. The DeepL one, like I said, the DeepL one I quite like, but it does mean for non-English speaking as well, people who are learning EMI education. So they put in, for example, a paragraph, it translates, they then have to analyze it, they note down new vocabulary, and they discuss the different ways that it's been done, etc. It brings up the YouTube Studio is a fun one. They quite enjoy this one. YouTube Studio, they create a video, and I was just playing literally just then. There's a thing called Riverside as well, which seems to be the new CapCut maybe. It's free. But they put it in. It's a video of them talking. 2-minute, 3-minute video. They put it in, captions. Are captions accurate? No. You get word here, word there is not what you actually said. If your pronunciation is quite poor, it's some really strange things coming out. So they have to do that, and then the next step is for them to note down where it made mistakes. Go to a simple dictionary, get the phonetic transcript, change it, practice your pronunciation, record the video again, see what the captions produce. See if it's improved. And it's, again, yes, I'm using AI. That is the tool that is captioning it, that's putting the subject. All it's doing is noting where your errors are. You go back, you practice, same old techniques, try again. It is just, and that's kind of where I'm going with AI, is to stop being so overtly aware of it being AI. No, it's just, that is the means to an end, and you're still focusing on critical thinking, deeper analysis, practice and performing. So that's kind of my approach to it a little bit more, if that makes sense. And that is where I think there needs to be so much more training done, so that the tools are understood, so they can be utilized, just as you would anything that's done on a computer. If you didn't know how to use Google, then it's very difficult to teach using Google Scholar. But if you know how to use it, without even thinking, your second nature is to go, you need to find a paper on this, go to Google Scholar, type in this, you know, change this filter, change that filter, you've done that. You're not really thinking, oh my gosh, I've learned this massive technology. As long as you've got the training to know what the tools are, so you can use them, focus should still be on teaching techniques, critical thinking, input, output. Sorry.
This brings up something, you know, we look at these syllabi from, the paper by named Toshi syllabi in the AI survey course, where he's doing a different tool every week. And so, but this is, I don't want to, I just pick on him because we know him. But it's really common syllabi in these AI survey courses that they teach in the departments a different tool every week, particular tool.
You don't need to learn all that many, as long as you have a base, like I'd say 3 or 4, you're fine.
Well, I'd say it's worse because you're getting people who are not particularly handy with these kinds of tools and showing them something they don't understand and interrupt with anything.
Yeah.
And I guess the idea is supposed to be they get interested and they can explore it themselves, but that's not enough.
It's just confusing and frustrating.
And this is, and I've been fighting at my university for it, and this is where the Teacher Resource Centre, things just like this worksheet where you can put it out there, people can look, they can take their own time using it, playing with it however you want.
Language sharing communities.
Do they have that at your university?
I'm fighting for it.
This reminds me of Yuri. Remember when Yuri wanted to do his online tab?
I mean, I feel like I used to work in places that had Teacher Resources Centre, which were, you know, you'd go to that place, I have a lesson coming up, it's based on this, I don't really know what to do, and it's just, you know, like multiple books, you know, toys, things that you can actually use, and I feel like that now needs to exist where it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And that's why you need a resource library with clear instructions. I mean, these are 12 activities that you can go in and you can experience and you can play with, and it's there, and you can be like, okay, yes, I'll use that, that looks good, and through actually using it and going into it, you slowly learn it.
Kind of. I mean, I'm just the YouTube video, the example that you give. I actually do this, but in the opposite way.
Okay.
So I don't. Kind of what you mentioned. Maybe you didn't mention it intentionally, but this is our discussion is related to native speakerism. So where's the mistake? Well, who's determining the mistake? So I use it with native speakers and show how YouTube videos mistranslate what has been said to a different word. So who made the mistake? The speaker or AI? And I want to demonstrate to them is like, this is the big debate on intelligibility versus the native speaker model. This is what we're talking about. And so,
There's two parties in communication.
exactly. So this is what we do, but it's not for language learning. We do it more for the discussion aspect.
Yeah. This was more not like I just found pronunciation is a very difficult thing to teach. I find
Oh,
in
100%.
general.
I totally agree with you.
And this is a really good way for them to actually kind of reflect on their pronunciation and see where it's failing. So
Partially, I think
yeah.
it has to be caveated as this is something that students need to be aware of, and as a teacher you need to reinforce is that is a model. It is not the model for them to strive for. I mean, it's so early on with the call system of there's some pretty nice systems of hearing you speak, and then they run it through machines and how closer each can make it. Which again is, I think, not necessarily the right model for all students, because they're wasting time on, especially art
He's
analysis.
native anyway, there's so many
Yeah,
different
so many
accents.
Well, that's the point, but
dialects.
again, from L2 learner perspectives, they want to know what a native speaker is going to say. They don't want native-like. They want to be native, which again, maybe not their goal, but nonetheless, that's something that they're getting.
It's also very ideological, depending on where you are. It's ideology depending on where you're located, of course, right? Like in Cambodia, Cambodians have been told since childhood that a way to a better life is to learn English.
Sure.
And so I guess it depends on where you are.
Well, what English are they learning? Is the question. Are they learning British or American?
Well, it's an amalgamation.
Well,
It's an
okay.
amalgamation everything from
So
South
what's the-
Africa to Australian to British
What's
to
the law?
American.
All native, right?
See, I think about this in terms of my
Well, they're making their
Chinese.
own.
And when I speak Chinese, my daughter laughs at me, and because she says it's weird.
That's
I don't
normal.
speak the way. Well,
That's a power play.
But it is true. I know that I don't use the right word choice, or I don't use a suitable word choice. People in my neighborhood would understand.
Right.
And I mean, or they might even understand it, but it's silly. You know, I'm using some English analog.
Correct.
And
Correct.
you know, I'm sure that whose English or Chinese is better than mine. You know.
If I can just. But the interesting thing with that, and this is when you start combining them, the first task we did NotebookLM is very much speaking in and having a conversation with that audio. If it doesn't understand you, because some of my students' feedback, it didn't understand what I said. It starts making them feel insecure. If they have this tool already, yes, we exampled it, we went through it in class, but if they have that tool, they then go, oh, it didn't understand my question. I better see which bit it didn't understand. They quickly record themselves, get a quick caption on YouTube, and it points out the bit that wasn't understood. They practice that, they go back into NotebookLM, try and have the conversation, it works. And that is where, realistically, I'm trying to show them these tools. Yes, it helps me understand what they're understanding, what they're missing, but it's also so they become more autonomous in their learning, which is the ultimate goal from my point of view.
Your university agree with that?
That's how I feel.
They say they do.
Exactly. The data wrapper one was when we were talking about data. Data wrapper is you put in data and it comes up with a multitude of ways to show it. And it's kind of a way for them to play with how it's done and what they understand from it. Again, you have it on your phones, I'm not going to go into it too much. But all of these ones, Magic School, I love Magic School. If you want to go into it, there's a room. I have set 3 different programs on it with different purposes, different functions, and they go in, they have a conversation. It's open for an hour, and they can have an hour. They choose which tool they want to use. It goes through a little journey, so it's got kind of brainstorming your ideas, helping you get to, this is a research question, I think, I can't remember which one I gave, but a research question, so they go through ideas of the research question. They think they've got the best one. Then they go to tool 2, which is an AI tutor. They discuss their research question, it pushes back, never gives them answers, which they hate, and it's hilarious to see the ones that just go, I don't know, just give me the research question. And it's like, no, try thinking of this. And then they can go, when they are happy, they go to the writing feedback, this is what I have, and then the writing feedback is just looking at grammatical skills and things like that. And because on Magic School I can set it to have my personality, it's giving feedback that is similar to the feedback that I give as well. So I do like Magic School. other thing with Magic School, I can see everything that they wrote. So they think they're having a nice conversation with AI and putting things in that they wouldn't want the teacher to see. And at the end of the hour I go, oh look, this is your conversation. They're not so happy about that, but it makes them think about it and they make it actually reflect on how they're using AI. And my gosh, does it catch out the ones who are lazy and the ones that actually have and engage and get something from it. And it's that teaching thing that it's easier to shame someone and go, look, actually I've seen what you did, and then they feel embarrassed and they don't want to do it again, which is, to me, a better way of preventing something than getting strict and angry with them, because people don't care about being angry. They care about feeling embarrassed. That's a better way to do it, in my opinion. That's my disciplinary kind of attitude. So I like Magic School. Anyway, these are the tools. You've got plenty of things if you want to sit and play and work through it. Again, my attitude 100% is to stop focusing on AI and go, oh my gosh, I'm using AI. It shouldn't be something that you're overtly saying this is AI. It should just be a means to an end. The end being learner autonomy, critical thinking, active engagement, is my opinion. To go through very quickly, I quite like this, I don't think we've got time, but I'll show you maybe another time. So essentially, I use these different things. I have an AI evidence folder. Beginning of the semester, I go through it. Here is a folder. Go in, put your name, you have your own folder within that folder. Every time you use AI, you screen record or you take screenshots of your use. At the end of the semester, they go back into that folder and they create a video of themselves reflecting on it, going through the screenshots, going through the videos, going, this is when I did this activity, I learned this, I learned that, I then implemented this. That sounds like a very general way of putting it. I have examples, again, on my computer, where there are really good videos, where Sinhood, a terrible student actually, honestly, absolutely, like I would go in there already head in hand and say, right, what AI stuff is he going to pretend is his today? By the end of the semester, his video was one of the best that I had. He really went into it and he fully owned up, and this was absolutely incredible to see. He fully owned up and he was like, I was using it like this, I was using it like this, I was using it like this, and I came to this. And I realized a phrase that I use with them, this is AI abuse, not AI use. Because that's is it AI use or AI abuse is my kind of tagline with it. And so I went back and I re-engaged, and that's when I tried this, and that's when I tried that. And again, I can share it with you if you need, but he really goes into it, and actually you can see when he stopped just using it to generate, and he actually critically engaged. In comparison to that, I've got a lovely one from Frontier, where she's talking on it, basically breaks down giggling, and is like, yeah, I didn't really learn anything, and I don't know what, I can't really remember anything. She failed. She absolutely, she didn't take it seriously. She was like, oh, whatever, this is just an extra little video. I'll just be like, oh yeah, I like this topic, ha ha ha. Nah, that's you have just told me you didn't learn anything, so how am I going to grade you when it's meant to be on learning? And that is where I go with it. Reflection tasks, pretty much every 2 to 3 weeks they have a reflection task. This can be writing, sometimes it's written. Sometimes it's a video, sometimes it's a group chat that is recorded. They have different ways of doing it, but it's every 2 or 3 weeks and they reflect on what they've learned in class and the AI tools that they've used. Videos about 3 to 5 minutes. You're not looking for something really long, you're not looking for an essay, but it's just keeping them responsible for their learning and keeping them aware of what they're using with AI, what they're producing, and what is useful and what is not. And I've got some quotes in here that it really has absolutely changed the way that a lot of them use AI. And they have, let's see if we get to the quotes. The notebook I showed you, peer judgment tasks, I really enjoy that, get them to mark each other's, and they start getting really irritated with people's AI use because they are given a task to judge someone else, they're given a task to mark something else, and if they think it's AI, they get angry because it's wasting their time. That, again, getting them to actually judge themselves and feel shame for what they've done, it enhances their output, in my experience. And I'm just very much sat there like, It's up to you how you tell them, you know, they're like, she's done this, she's done that. I was like, okay. You react to it, you tell them how you want it to change. And that has, I've seen huge changes from that. So a lot of it, they have to mark each other. And the prompt writing I showed you as well. Oh yeah, this is one of my favourite ones that I got only about 2 days ago. I got this one, so I was like, thank you. In her reflection, I did not ask anything about prompts. I didn't ask anything like that. I just said, reflect on your AI use. And she said one of the things that she's really learned is what you put into AI actually controls what you get out of it. And she never thought about it like that. And so I liked the garbage in, garbage out quote. If you just put a vague, boring, you know, do this, you're going to get a vague, boring, generic generation. It's a process, it's not a one-shot thing. I thought AI would be easier. It wasn't. Once you're actually engaging and you're having to give feedback and you're having to show your evidence and show each prompt that you use and how you understood what it produced, it actually becomes more daunting and less of a cheat sheet. So I really liked that one from Rich. So yeah, you've got the video, the evidence folder, prompt and skill, opinion tasks, the authentic voice, which is what I've got in the arts and culture class. A lot of the video reflections or the written reflections, I asked for their opinion. What moment in the class stood out to you? Things like that. They can't use AI for that. So they realised that AI was not as useful. This is what I was saying about the video, so I'm talking about that. Yeah. So this is, again, the feedback that I got. Use less AI than in any other course. This was arts and culture. The evidence folder made AI feel like more work. Tracking every interaction raised the cost of casual misuse. So they identified when they were using it inappropriately, and it actually stopped it because it made them accountable. This is where the evidence folder, without me doing anything other than having it there, they began to judge themselves for their use and when it was actually effective and when it was. And this is what I think is like a hugely important thing. Opinion and reflection tasks diffused it. Students found AI unhelpful for genuine personal voice. A few of them got very low marks because they reflected on a lesson I'd done on photography, and they'd obviously just put into AI, you know, write a reflection on a lesson on photography, and it talked about things that I hadn't even mentioned, so I knew it was AI. But it does have purpose, grammar flow, concept checking, and learning tool not replacement. They have to keep vocab journals. Again, this is things that I instruct. You always have a vocabulary journal, a grammar journal, things like that. So as they are using it, if there's new words, they write them down. This goes with the AI evidence for tracking their use. Yeah, the judgment, we did a debate. Some people have just written their scripts. Obviously, they're not going to rebut something if they're using a script that they've already generated, so they don't know what the other person said. And I nearly had to break up fights in that class. They were really angry at these people who had just read off the script. They're like, why are you wasting our time? We just had a brilliant debate where people were actually responding in real time. It was great for them identifying it and realising themselves was useful. Yeah, I did want to mention this, which Josh, this was one of the beautiful things about the essay, the 1 hour write a handwritten essay. They knew the general gist of what question they were going to get. I have one, it's actually in my bag, and they obviously forgot where they got to. They learnt it by rote. Something in Asia, I think a lot of you would have experienced. Rote learning is a massive thing culturally. So they're implementing it. Why would you not implement that by just regurgitating what AI produced? They're forgetting the critical thinking. And this one person wrote the same sentence with the same line twice because they'd obviously forgotten where they were and they just memorized it, so it just didn't make any sense. I know full well they didn't have any AI with them. It was memorized. They memorized an essay, messed up writing it down, and it wasn't even with AI in the room with them, but they're still using it in failing values. And that is why it's so important to stop them just accepting whatever AI has produced anyway. So they're going to do it like that, they're going to do it like that. And yeah, so this goes what I've basically been pushing is AI is within the courses, it's not alongside them. It's not like, oh, we're going to have an AI lesson today. As long as you know the platforms, it should just be a means to your teaching. And the students should know how to use it in order to do that. Which they will, they'll just experience it and use it themselves. We have, oh yeah, I like Molly Rott's one. Jay allowed AI, as long as we were honest with it, most professors are fully against it. She absolutely couldn't believe it. She has been using NotebookLM for self-study, she really likes it. Yeah, Sidney, the more we rewrote, the more it lost track of what I wanted. Experiencing the AI and seeing where it fails, and that was from one of the prompt engineering tasks I did. Yeah, instead of completely relying on it, I now used it as a tool while still thinking critically. Again, these are not, this is not something I've directed. I haven't said, have you thought critically? All I've said is, reflect on your AI use. This is all from them, from the line, reflect on your AI use, that's it. And I was really happy to see what they put in their feedback, which I wanted to show you a lot. This is what, like I've seen, so from theories that I was noting, I thought it was interesting, the University of Sydney has this 2-lane response, and one of them is just like the arts and culture exam, sit, you have an hour, write it, there's no AI. As I noted, with rote learning, that doesn't always work. The other one is the video reflection as well as handing in the written work. That is my favourite one, I really like that one. Yes, so authenticity alone is insufficient. This is where you have the checklist. Yes, I used AI. Doesn't tell me very much. I have no idea what your level of understanding is. So it needs to be opinion and documented. It can't just be, yes, I used AI. That is not the problem I found with a lot of teachers is they say, oh, it's more marking, it's more marking, it's more marking. I mean, it is. There's nothing you can do around that. I try and play, if it's an audio track, I try and play the video whilst I'm marking, so if I'm looking at their work, I'm hearing them talk as well, and I'm noting as I'm marking it anyway. But also, AI does help with marking. I do not rely on it solely, but I will see what it produces, and I will go in and then criticize that. So you can kind of look at time saved in both ways.
How many students are in this class?
These ones, I mean, the arts and culture is usually more, but 25-ish. Yeah. Again, it depends on what you're looking at. If you, as I said, I mean, I do use it. I put all my things I got. Depends which platform. There's Enlighten Me is a good one for marking because it learns your marking. You put in examples of what you have already marked. It learns what you look for, and the more you put in, the more similar to your responses comes out, which makes it a lot easier. So Enlighten Me, I would recommend. Jason, who runs it, I've had lots of talks with us. I've been going into this, and they are adapting it more and more to be more like you, but you have to put in a lot of data of your own marking to do that. I like to use that, and then I go through it. So it's like I've got a version of a mark and feedback. I've got the actual thing, and I look at it, I compare it, I edit, I add, I minus, I plus. You know, it's like having a moderator. Sorry, time is way. And then, yeah, metacognition. Disclosure is the assessment, honesty is and this is something that I wanted to bring up very quickly. I don't know if you know it, there's a thing called Thesis AI. Thesis AI is going to ruin us, in my opinion. You pay for it, it's expensive. But it will write an entire paper, 5,000, 10,000 words, 5 minutes. And it isn't bad, if you look at it, it really isn't bad. That is the real issue to me. And I absolutely do not support it. That's a platform that I am quite against. But I think it is showing a lot of the issues with AI and the importance of making them aware to think critically to try and stop them and deter them from using these things. But also, what is the end result? If people with money can use money to cheat, they're going to use money to cheat. What does that end up doing? Realistically, that is just going to kind of widen the gap, isn't it, between those who are privileged in the results and those who aren't. So in a way, AI is there to kind of help with differentiation, but in a way it's also now increasing that.
But isn't there a deeper issue that even if it goes open source and it's free to everybody, it just means we're de-skilled in that. Nobody will be writing DC.
And that's where, like I say, with the videos, with the looking at prompt engineering, I mean, this is why I think it's important to get those skills in, to try and break free from that. I don't know, I'd love you to have a look at it because it was terrifying when I had a look at it. It was one of those ones where it absolutely doesn't call for much input, to be honest. So this is where, I don't know, that's the next thing I kind of want to look at. To be honest, that's where I'm kind of beginning to go in a different tangent.
We've talked a lot about how, the whole idea of plagiarism is going to be redefined.
Yeah, it already is AI.
It is already, and it will be further redefined. What is plagiarism? What does it actually mean? We're going to have to come to a new understanding.
And this is a lot of my students are asking me exactly that, and because I am open about AI use, they are coming to me, which is taking up so much time. But like they are coming to me, and I talk to them about paraphrasing. Basically I just say to them, right, look what it's done, right, how would you change it? Let's have a look, try and change every 8th word or, restructure it. I try and just encourage them to do it because I don't have an answer. AI isn't a thing.
I'm battling with the basic idea. How can you write a complete thesis? But as an advisor, I would never accept a complete thesis for any student. If they just came and say, I finished, here it is.
Yeah.
Clearly I have it documented over the years.
Yeah.
So, at a minimum, they're with me 2 years. So, they can't come after in 2 years' time and say, here's my thesis. I look at them and I go, no, that's not how it works.
I've had so many students who I've got similar, I've been following, they've had to show me this, all these things, and then what they said to me is very, very, very loosely related to everything else they've done. And I'm like, wow, oh, well, I had to just completely change everything because this didn't work. And I'm like, in a week.
So this would be effective with a really shitty thesis.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
And they do exist. So.
Which again, if you're just there to get the degree and move along, okay, not a problem. And you save money.
But there's one thing I think teachers don't really think about much is eventually we're not the ones who are going to decide it because the labor market's vastly more powerful than any teacher. Right?
Yep.
So if writing disappears, teachers can't say that.
Correct.
If it gets so good at research that research itself has changed and we just put in an idea and it comes back, generates and gives us the idea, which is what's happening now in a lot of fields. Teachers can't stop that. We're essentially powerless to stop that. So it's not for us.
It's a fundamental change.
You're right. It might happen with or without us.
These are just, I just wanted to, because I know that people turn, so I just wanted to kind of nod to these things. As I said, through a lot of my investigations with AI, I have ended up having a lot of phone calls with people in the creative industry. There's one called ODS Pedagogy, which basically I kind of had a bit of a rant about NotebookLM not having subtitles on videos and things like that, and that they can try and do the interactive task before going through the rest of it, so they haven't actually engaged and learned and and they started exploring different ways. So it's very similar to NotebookLM, but at the moment it's still in the design phases. I am occasionally using it. But keep an eye out, hopefully, that's one, and if you have any feedback that you would like to give me, I can pass it on. Basil Labs is also one that I have been discussing things with them. It's a lot more to do with the data and scraping tools, so that it's for, like elicit perplexity when you're trying to find papers on things, you're trying to find data. It is, it's a more advanced way of doing it. At the minute, if you go onto, I think it's basillabs.com, but Basil Labs, it gives you a taster so you can try it yourself. Again, these are still in the process, but I think they're going to be big. This is something I'm doing at the moment a lot of, and I think potentially, especially with Claude Code coming out, this is going to start being the way of the more technically minded teachers, technology minded teachers. I often go into Claude and I say I want them to do this, I want them to do that. It will give me code, I put it in GitHub. I now have an interactive tool that I use with my students. And arts and culture one, that's not a great one, it's a bit more reviewed arts. See if I can find it for you. But it's essentially you design your lesson completely and then put it in, put a QR code, students go in and suddenly it is completely curated. So you have created the videos, you've created the writing, you've done everything and you made the interactive activities. It is becoming a way that teachers who are able, it's there, it's accessible, Claude code, GitHub, just put one into the other. You don't have to know how to code, tell Claude to do it. GitHub, put it in and you've got your own materials completely designed by you, however you like to teach. It is there and it's accessible. I feel like this is another thing that is potentially on the horizon as part of being a teacher. We're not there yet, it's a future one. But it is quite fun.
It's only going to get streamlined too.
Yeah. As I said, I mean, I can show you a few things, but again, they're on my computer, and I won't carry on talking because I've been on forever. But yeah, these are ones that are already there, but I think need to be used in the way that I've shown you. But these are the things that I think are coming. That's my opinion. I might be wrong. Yeah, and that's it. And I have talked forever, and I am very sorry.